to Blighty and our third poetry open mic, a space for creativity, positivity, and sharing words, and befriending words basically, each other's words, and writing the spoken word, the written word, writing your own poetry, and reading it, or reading other people's poetry, and telling the story of why you like it. So my first poem I'm going to open with this evening, and also just to say thank you for the newcomers who have come this evening. Welcome. So I wrote this poem called When I Was Young. And when I left home, Ireland, I'm Irish, and I left home when I was 18. And I hadn't really lived at home in that time, except for a week or two for a holiday. And in COVID, because of COVID, I went home, and it was Christmas, after the second lockdown, things were opened up, and I was due to come back after 2 weeks. But as it happened, flights were cancelled, everything locked down again. And I ended up staying at home, in my home house, with my mom for 4 months. And it was an amazing time. So COVID was difficult for a lot of people and everything, but this was an amazing time to kind of reconnect with my roots at home and where I grew up. So I was there for 4 months, I was studying, working, and I stopped writing poetry in that time. But the night before I left Ireland, I was at this neighbour's place, and obviously during COVID we were all walking out in nature. And down the road from me, when you leave out my house, down the road, on the right-hand side, there's a passage into this house. And I remember this couple, they had no children, but I remember as a child going to visit them. And it brought such nostalgia. It was closed up for ages, and somebody bought it, and the gate was open, and I used to walk back. And it brought up this nostalgia for me. It brought up really thinking about when I was young. And, you know, the nostalgia was quite, the memories were quite strong. And the night before I left, I went for my last walk back this passage, and this poem basically wrote itself, and it's called When I Was Young. That gate, old, rusty red, creaks like it never did before when I was young. That house stands still, empty, lifeless, redundant. Not like it was before when I was young. That postbox hanging off its hinges, the weathering sun, its paint, it singes. No postman here, no letters for many a year. Not like there was when I was young. Through the dirt-stained window, the chair, now dusty, still sits there. No one in it, staring into space. Not like there was when I was young. That passage where people walked in and walked out, footsteps, wheels, movement galore, is now trampled less and less, not like it was before when I was young. Like the passage of time sure does go so fast. Before we know it, the present is our past, and our life is in its winter time, and then it's gone. But I remember that time when I was young, oh, the joy of life back then, the energy of youth. But is it really just lost on the young? Because can we ever realize just how the time flies when we're young? Now I stand here in that same passage of my youth, lost deeply in thought. The fears, standing still, recollecting, eyes closed, reminiscing, counting back those years. Thinking of that young girl I once was. Looking back over, I recall all the joys, the tears, the fears. Now thinking, was life really much more simple? Just because it was way back then when I was young. But wait, now in my mind's eye, I see a young girl running towards me. I strain my eyes to see, and out of my blurry vision, I think, how can this be? The young girl I see, it's me. So I pick her up and I hug her tight, and I tell her all will be all right, and that she is loved. I tell her of the world out there she will see, and how wonderful her life will be. But for now, I say, Go, enjoy the beauty of springtime youth and always stay carefree. For the sun will always shine, the daffodils will always bloom, but this time of our life will be over all too soon, like when we were young.